Hello, everybody. I'm back again. Um, we got an account from a lady that is very recent. This happened near the town of Parkersburg, West Virginia. The lady called me, and this is going to be one of those ones where I want y'all to tell me what she did wrong um, that got her the not unwarranted, but unwanted attention that she ended up with. Um, my wife, I've discussed this with my wife, and my wife said she made probably, what, five or six different mistakes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Um, but anyway, this lady is in her middle 30s. She's recently divorced. She got the house in the divorce. And this subdivision backs right up against the um the little canal river. Part of it does, and then the other part is a heavily wooded area that goes back out into um, nowhere. And it's a perfect area for Bigfoot to hide, and that way they can get to the river for water and fish and whatever else they want. And then they got the people that built this little subdivision right into the territory that they go through. So um, that gives you a little background on the area. I'm not going to be specific on the area because this lady still lives there, and so is the gentleman that's involved in this. Anyway, her husband, when they were still together, they heard a noise in their backyard one night, and now their backyard is not fenced; it just butts right up against the woods. And they heard a noise, and she thought she saw something walking through the backyard. Didn't know what it was. My wife is telling me my forehead is fathead forehead cut off.
There you go.
Okay. Anyway, I hope it sounds good. Uh, she saw something, and they heard something in their backyard, and the husband went out the front door because they had two doors. One that went in the garage, which was on the right side of the house, I do believe. The other door that went out the left side of the house went out from their pantry, and it was visible from the uh, backyard. So he went out the front door, went around the side of the house to where the garage was, because the garage pointed out to the right side of the house, and then there was a door that come out of the garage area right there on the right side of the house. And it was two ways, three ways for them to get in and out of the house. So at that point, he goes out in the backyard and goes out there, and she said that he wasn't out there 10 or 15 seconds, came back in, looked at her with a bleached white type of look on, his skin was bleached white, scared to death. So he looked at her, said, "I don't love you no more. I'm leaving you, and you can have that day. You can have the blankety blank 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 house." What a way to find out you're getting divorced. So after that happened, a few months went by. It pretty much upset her. She was upset about that, and things going on at her house um, were very sporadic. There wasn't much going on until we fast forward about 6 or 8 months. Their divorce is pending, waiting on the last meeting with the family law master. And this new neighbor moves in, about her age, has two kids. Evidently, he has custody of the children, and he got is getting divorced from his wife. and he bought a house. Has a lot of money. I mean, he makes good money. Well, I don't know where he works. We never got into that, but he makes darn good money. And he bought the house right beside hers. Now there's a little bit of distance between the two houses. They're not sitting on top of each other. There's she said maybe 50, 60 yards between the houses. So that's a pretty good distance. It's about 180 feet between the houses. And oops, about to fall. It's uneven ground on this section of the yard. Need to get a dozer, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, at that point, when he moved in, she took to cutting her grass, wearing a pair of short shorts and a tube top. This happened last summer. She every time she cut her grass, she had a riding lawnmower, and she'd ride the riding lawnmower. And here's another little bit of information: she's blonde. House backs up the woods. Uh, Very good travel corridor for a Bigfoot, right next to the river. Yeah, not too bright, but that's just my opinion. We want to hear y'all's. And going through this, she starts activity starts to pick up at her house after cutting her grass for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, wearing short shorts and a tube top. Don't know why she would be doing that, but that's her business. Anyway, after doing this, she starts having visits from something walking around her backyard at night. It's uh, pushed over a little bird bath that her husband had put up and made out of concrete. And those things can be pretty heavy. What else was it? Stuff would be moved around the yard. She had a garden statue of a bear in the backyard that was painted. Someone had made for her. She had bought at a store somewhere. It was moved off its pedestal where it was placed. Some other heavy things were moved, so it would take one or two people to move these things. One person if they were very strong, or two people, because they were pretty heavy, 200-300 pounds apiece. And she loved stuff like that, so she would cut her backyard, and it progressed and kept getting worse and worse. But it also helped her out get the attention of her neighbor. Evidently, this gentleman is in her age, younger than I am and my wife, and they kind of hit it off and started going out, and the activity kept amping up around her home. She would be out cutting grass. She would hear whistles. So she would hear the whistles when she would shut the lawnmower off. Something would whistle at her, and she never did see it in the daylight. And evidently, they went out on a date, went to the movies, went to dinner, got home kind of late. She invited him over to come over and sit and talk. And uh, in the process of them sitting there in the back of the house to where there was a bay window, uh, she saw something walk across the yard again. And he never saw it, so he didn't go outside. Anyway, things went on between them, and the more that he visited her or she went to his house, things kind of started amping up at his place. Stuff was getting moved at his place. There's only 180 feet between the two houses, and stuff would, he would walk her home at night, or they would hear something whistle at him, and So evidently there was uh, uh, more than one of something that was out there watching her and him. And it kind of accumulated one night. They were sitting there at her house and had been watching movies. His kids were at his ex-wife's. They had gotten their divorce had been finalized, and the kids went to the ex-wife's for the weekend. And so on and so forth kind of happened, and they were sitting there watching movies, and just so happened that the TV sits in the corner of the room, and they're able to see out the bay window. Well, they see a big figure go walking across the yard, and then they see another figure go walking across the yard. So there's at least two dark figures outside walking across the yard like a human being. Well, he gets up. Uh, by this point, she had purchased a firearm, and he had a firearm, and he's well versed in firearms, and he is ex military intelligence, I do believe. And he took the firearm she had given him and went out there and started looking around. Well, he never found what it was. And when he went out the door on the side of where the garage, through the garage, the figures went from the right. If you're facing the back of the house, like face the house like I am right now, you're inside the room, the sitting room or living room, whatever you would like to call it. The figures went walking from right to left, back across her yard as he went through the garage. Well, he never found nothing. And when he came back in, she told him she saw him come from the right to the left. In other words, from his house area over to through the edge of her yard. Now, there's been other things that have happened in the neighborhood. Family dogs disappeared, cats disappeared. Um, One gentleman had four chickens and they all disappeared in one night. He kept them in a coop. The coop was opened up, ripped the chicken wire was grabbed, ripped off the top of the coop, off the side of the coop, and all four chickens are gone. Um, so there's things that have went on that are typical of a cryptid. And the thing of it is they never got to see, except for the forms walking across the yard, what was going on. And she continues. Now she's cutting his yard on the lawnmower, and he's, whenever, she would cut his grass too, and still wearing the short shorts and the tube top or the tank top or whatever, showing it. You women know. The women know, and so the guys do. Things that are going on, and it finally got to the point where it started to, they got scared one night. She was there by herself, and she had seen something walking towards the house, and it scared her, and she called him, and he went out his back door, because he had his kids at home, and he went out the back door, and whatever it was, he caught a glimpse of it in the light that's on the back corner of his yard. Um, so all this is going on, and they got in touch with me. I told them to install some lights to keep them at bay, and because these were definitely not human beings walking across the yard. They said they were way too big to be a human, and what he saw was not human. So I'm gonna give you the update. The lights didn't work. Yep, lights didn't work. They kept having the same situation, same things going on, even and the lights just made it to where they could see what was going through the yard. Um, but I don't need to give you a description of it, except to say that it was not a human walking on 2 feet It was something else that walks on 2 feet. They just got big feet. And so at this point, he has turned the backyard at his house into a shooting range. That seems to have kept them at bay here lately. And they put up game cameras and put up motion sensors, cameras in their backyard. They have not caught anything because they can't get to these motion sensor cameras to shove them up, or the motion sensor up. And they can't get to the lights that he installed on the back of his house, which are the super bright white lights that light up his yard and her yard and back into the woods. They can't get to the sensors, so they can't take a stick and shove them up, or they can't push them up. Um, anyway, let me hear what you think about this, and let me hear what you think was in the backyard. Tell me what you thought they saw, and tell me the mistakes that she made that brought attention to her, and things that I pointed out to her. And I hope you enjoy it, and pray that every one of you are blessed and that you're watched over for through these hard times that we are in our country right now. We thank you, and come back for the next one. Bye, guys.